Hello there, this is David from David Books and Comics, and today I'm looking through Frank Leslie's illustrated newspaper. It was fascinating just going through this because of the details of history. So this is from January 11th, 1862, and this is New York. And the price is 8 cents. And here it features it says the exhibition of national prisoners in the hospital at Richmond, Virginia, from a sketch. I think Frank Leslie did a lot of these sketches himself. Then you have the notice terms for this paper. 17. That's for subscriptions. This is the mode of communication way back when. Look at that. It's just incredible detail. Wood engraving. You can see here it has some interesting facts and interesting information. You have a sea battle here. Just incredible stuff. I've never seen anything like it, actually. And what are we looking at? Charleston Harbor. And there's a Confederate $10 bill. How's that for facsimile of a treasury note lately issued by the Confederate government of Richmond, Virginia? All right. And what do we have? These are Union soldiers, Camp Graham, it says. So this is in the midst or the throes of the war. Wow, never seen anything like this. Living or dead? God. Let's see. More. Just show you some of it. The Great Southern Expedition, it says. Entrance of General Stevens' brigade into Beaufort, South Carolina, on the evening of December the 5th, from a sketch by our special artist, with General Sherman's command, it says. And you go down here. Yeah, it's the other way. I have to flip it around, just so you can see. It says the Battle of Drainesville, Virginia, December 20th, between the national forces, I imagine that'd be the Union forces, commanded by General McCall and Ord, and a superior rebel force led by General Stuart, rout of the rebels with heavy loss. What a tragedy that was, the Civil War. Anyway, and then we have some ads. So these are interesting. Brigadier General E. Sickles, Excelsior Brigade, from a photograph. All right, incredible history here. What else do we have? This is New York, December 27th, 1862. Brother Jonathan calls on the Lancashire weaver. Says, well, here I am, old fellow, though I've got a little trouble at home. I don't forget my friends, you see. So this one was 8 cents. December 27th, 1862. Look at that text. I don't think people are as literate anymore. And this is, yeah, splash. This is the bombardment of Fredericksburg, Virginia by the Army of the Potomac, commanded by General Burnside, Thursday, December 11th. From a sketch from a special artist, it says. It says Uncle John's contest with Bryson, whatever that is. You have to read the story. Launch of the steam ram Keokuk. Captain Captain Brind, I think it's, or Bind, from the Dry Dock, Ironworks, 11th Street, East River, New York. Gives you all kinds of details. And what is this? A battle. This is the Forlorn Hope volunteer storming party consisting of portions of the Michigan and 19th Massachusetts crossing. I can't pronounce that. Rappahannock. Crossing the Rappahannock in advance of the Grand Army to drive off the rebel riflemen who were firing upon the Union Pontooniers Wednesday, December the 10th. Special artist, Mr. Henry Henri Lovie. Like a French name. So Frank Leslie's Illustrated Newspaper. What do we have here? It says the passage of the Rappahannock on the Grand Army of the Potomac at Fredericksburg. Midnight, Wednesday, December the 10th. Just amazing stuff. I'm sure people will enjoy seeing some of this in big screen and that's where I urge you to see it. See it on the big screen. Don't see it on your cell phones. It's quite a treat for the eyes. And this one is from June 7th, 1862. It says, carrying the war into Africa, a portion of the 1st South Carolina Contraband Brigade leaving Beaufort for Hilton Head on board the steamer Matano. It says, our special artist is W.T. Crane. The war in the South Carolina recruiting for the Contraband Brigade near Beaufort by order of Major General Hunter, May 13th. W.T. Crane is the artist. Okay, we have a lot of text, which was typical, and it has obituaries. Oh my gosh. So we have what? I can barely read that. This is the occupation of Norfolk, Naval Hospital and Battery at Portsmouth, from a sketch by a special artist. And then we have, what's this? Occupation of Norfolk, Virginia. Bird's eye view from the ruins of the Navy Yard at Gosport. Evacuated by Commander Macaulay, USN commanding. April 21st, 1861. Abandoned and burnt by the rebels on May 11th. Wow. Okay. Gives you details of the Civil War, obviously. And who do we have here? We have Colonel Everett Parody. Is it Parody or Peabody? Killed at the Battle of Pittsburgh Landing, April the 6th. The war in North Carolina, seen from Beaufort, North Carolina. A lot of details, much of what's probably forgotten. The war in Virginia looks very chaotic. 6th Regiment, U.S. Regular Cavalry, on the rebel Stuart's cavalry. The rebels scattering confusion and seek safety in the woods. Friday, May 9th. Lots of special artists. But that's how things were written or captured in those days. They were required, you couldn't take instant photographs. You just had to rely on the artist's vision of what took place. But I imagine they would try very hard to be as accurate as possible. This is a story, I think. The Prodigal Son, Chapter 4, continued. Just incredible stuff. The best is yet to come. This goes this way. War on the Mississippi. U.S. gunboats. And then it's labeling each one. Iroquois, Cayuga, Ferryboat Westfield, Varuna. That's just naming each one. The war on the Mississippi. Incredible. I didn't even know there was a war in the Mississippi. And Prescott's cartridge revolvers. Yep. Elliott's pocket revolver. How's that? That's your ads. And what do we have? The devil pay on board of the steamboat, Confederate States. Last boat to up Salt River. That's cartoons, I guess. All right. And this one's interesting. This is from January 28th, 1865. And this shows the escape of Lieutenant Colonel Flory, 46th Indiana Volunteers, and Captain Loring, USN, from captivity in Texas. A photograph by Lilienthal, M.O. Lilienthal. It's January 28th, 1865. And we flip the page. Heavy duty text. And we have poems. Just reading a stanza here. Then sing to me some gentle song, and round my neck thy white arms wind, while tender thoughts, a holy throng, float over thy pure mind, and flower within thine eyes, as lilies in smooth waters grow, and lovingly entwined so. It may be we shall feel the glow of angel loves, and sweetly know the strength of angel ties. It's kind of a love poem. And then we have what? Bowing cut of the bulkhead of the Dutch Gap Canal, James River, Virginia, January 1st, from a sketch by special artist J. Taylor. Yeah. Just some beautiful, incredible art. It's almost like woodcut. I don't know how they do that. Let's see now. Yeah, that one was cut. A Chapter of Everyday Life by Mary Campbell. Child's Garden, Town Gossip. And look at that. This is the prison pen at Millen, Georgia, as it appeared previous to the arrival of General Sherman's army. Maybe, I don't know. What are those mounds? Maybe a bit humane, I don't know. All right. And who do we have here? The late Honorable Edward Everett. The death of the Honorable Edward Everett. It's Edward Everett. Prison pen at Millen, Georgia. And then we have your ads. And what do we got here? This is the old flag, the old American flag. You can see that it's a star shape. This is March 11th, 1865. It says, "Old flag again on Sumter raised. on a temporary staff formed by an oar and a boat hook, by Captain H.M. Bragg of General Gilmore's staff, February 18th. Sketched on the spot by your special artist, W.T. Crane. It looks like staged. Just an incredible amount of detailed information here. The view of Fort Anderson on the west bank of Cape Fear River, North Carolina, captured by U.S. troops on February 19th, from a sketch by our special artist, Joseph Becker. It's this, the great Percival diamond, how it was lost and how it was found. The Fall of Charleston. This is a poem. Frank Leslie's illustrated newspaper. Yeah, this is like a story, short story. What do we got this? Oh, our volunteer fire department, a series of illustrations representing the various steam fire engines used in New York. Incredible. This is the Excelsior number 2. How's that for a fire engine? Only a Clod by M.E. Braddon. What do we got here? You got Mademoiselle Hélène de Catou, performer at the violoncello, from a photograph. They call it a violoncello. On the violoncello. Is that what it was called? That's a cello, isn't it? There's a prisoner gagged and fettered. Prisoner in barrel jacket. It says an incident at Germans campaign, U.S. soldiers digging up infernal machines near Sisters Ferry, Georgia, from a sketch by J.G. Sager. Or Sager. And then we have ads. And if you know your history and your dates in history, this is from April 22nd, 1865. And this shows President Lincoln riding through Richmond on April the 4th, and the enthusiastic cheers of the inhabitants, from a sketch by special artist J. Becker. And these are African Americans, obviously. Death blow of the rebellion, it says. Okay. Let us see. So we have to turn it this way, and what do we have here? This looks violent. It says the battle at Bentonville, North Carolina, Major General Mower, commanding a division, 17th Corps, turning the rebel left half a mile from Bentonville, March 20th. From a sketch by special artist J.E. Taylor. There's the Confederate flag, the U.S. flag, there's the Confederates, and the Union flag. And Wilhelm challenges his brother-in-law to a mortal combat. Oh my God. With a sword, no doubt. And what is this? Enthusiasm in New York City. On receipt of the news of the fall of Richmond, speech by the Honorable L.E. Chittenden, late Register of the Treasury, from the portico of the Custom House. Let's hear. The death of Desroches. Lieutenant Desroches, who caused himself to be killed last year in the Battle of Hamburgen, 2 months after his marriage. Okay. Goes on and on. That's a long account. Wow. The last night attack in front of Petersburg by the Union forces under General Grant. This is March 31st. From a sketch from our special artist. Yeah, well, look at that. Incredible. In those days when they didn't have photographs and instant news, this is the only way they could get it. And then we have what? A view of Goldsboro, North Carolina, from a sketch by a special artist. A view from Bentonville, North Carolina, morning of the battle, the great quantities. And the morning after the battle, great quantities fired by the rebels. Quantities of, I don't know what that is, boson, something, fired by the rebels. Horrible death of a number of, under the something, Brooklyn, April the 4th. This was the horrible death, I guess, caused by fire. Alright, and we have the ads. This is a very popular paper, apparently. And here's the tragedy. This one is from April 29th, 1865, and it says the assassination of President Lincoln in his private box at Foles Theater in Washington on April the 14th. You have Booth, Mr. Lincoln, Mrs. Lincoln, Miss Harris, and Major Rathbun. Abraham Lincoln assassinated, Good Friday, 1865, says the martyr president. Price is 10 cents. This is number 500. And it goes on, the murder of President Lincoln. And it goes into John Wilkes Booth. This unhappy wretch whose mad and wicked hand has struck down the foremost man in the realm is the youngest son of the famous actor Junius Brutus Booth, and brother of the hardly less celebrated Edwin Booth, whose Hamlet is familiar to all. He was born in Maryland some 30 years ago and received a good education, being his father's favorite son. He finally adopted the stage as a profession and recently performed in New York the part of Mark Antony in Julius Caesar, the characters of Brutus and Cassius being assumed by his brothers Edwin and Lucius Junius. He recently entered into oil speculations, reported to have made a considerable fortune. For some time past, he had been living on a farm on the Potomac, occasionally visiting New York and Washington. The evidence hitherto gathered leaves no doubt that his well-known succession opinions have pointed him out to the Southern rebels as a fit agent for the performance of their murderous design. It says President Lincoln visiting the late residence of Jefferson Davis in Richmond, Virginia on April the 4th, from a sketch by special artist Joseph Becker. That's this. Over here is the scene in the burnt district of Richmond, Virginia, looking up Carey Street from a sketch from a special artist. And what else? Oh my gosh, what was this? It says the dying moments of President Lincoln at Washington, Saturday morning on April the 15th. I think this guy is the Secretary of War, if I'm not mistaken. And then who do we have? Let's see. M.J. Yoke, Mr. H. Yoke, Mr. Peterson, and Mr. G. Wells, Mr. Farnsworth, Chief Justice Chase. You have a Mr. something or other, then you have Surgeon Stone, Postmaster Dennison, Mr. Proctor, Mr. Peterson, Charles Sumner, Robert Lincoln, that would be his brother, I guess, Rufus F. The surgeon, Rufus F. Andrews. Incredible. And this is Mr. Stanton. The dying moments of President Lincoln at Washington, Saturday morning, April 15th. So this is from April 29th. Yeah, April 29th, days later. The Union Army entering Richmond, Virginia. April the 3rd, reception of the federal troops on Main Street. Oh, wow. Escaped slaves arriving in Wilmington, North Carolina, from a sketch from our special artist. Palmetto tree. And we have the Wilmington Sanitary Commission, contraband street sweepers going to work. And the ads. And more. It's from May 5th, 1865. And what do we have? The assassination of President Lincoln, the murderer leaping from upon the stage and catching his spur on the flag which hung before the president's box. This May 6th is days after. Not even a week, a few weeks after. Oh. Funeral services over the remains of President Lincoln as they lay in state in the East Room of the White House on April 19th. From sketch from special artist C.E.H. Bonwell. There's the widow. Okay. Okay. That's that one. And what is that? It says Sergeant Boston Corbett, the man who shot Booth. In the killing of Booth, the assassin, the dying murderer drawn from the barn where he had taken refuge on Garrett's farm near Port Royal, Virginia, on April 26, 1865. That's a very violent scene. Sketched by an eyewitness. What do we have now? Interior of the President's funeral car, coffin, and guard of honor. It's from May 13th, 1865. The Highwayman of the Black Horse, or a Cure for Love and Suicide. View of the funeral car containing the remains of President Lincoln. What's this? Booth escaping by horseback from the rear of the theater after the murder of the president. This is the funeral honors of President Lincoln. The catafalque passing up Broadway. New York, April 25th, 1865. The president's presence of nearly 1 million spectators. It says from a number of sketches taken at different points by our special artists. Interesting. Scene from negotiations between General Sherman and Johnson, April 18th, 1865. It says at James Bennett's house where the interview was held, General Kilpatrick with Confederate General Hampton and staff discussing the campaign during the meeting between their chiefs. J. Taylor. Coffin containing the remains of President Lincoln. And then what we have, small doors leading to the president's box, Ford's Theater, Washington, showing the aperture made by Booth in the corner of the panel. Then it says, murder of President Lincoln. Mr. Lincoln carried from the theater to Peterson's house opposite on April the 14th, right there. Booth's stable in the rear of Ford's Theater, Washington, D.C. Says Ford's Theater, says the small door by which Booth made his escape. It's all history. And what do we got here? This is dated May 27th, 1865. And I believe it was a conspiracy, so failure of the conspiracy against republicanism. It says Lewis Payne, the assassin of Mr. Seward, awaiting his trial in the penitentiary at Washington, guarded by a sentry of the 2nd Reserve Corps. Says The Captain, a legend of the Navy. These are poems. And present appearance of the office of the Richmond Examiner. The baggage of the baggage master's discovery. Oh, wow. Okay, what do we got here? Oh, wow, here we go. We'll start here. And Mr. Surratt, with the conspirators and assassins, hooded in iron, proceeding to the penitentiary at Washington from the steamer Keyport, which brought them to the wharf from the gunboat in the Potomac. And then up here, interior of Libby Prison, with Lee's soldiers confined after the surrender. Looks pretty tame, according to this depiction anyway. This is an ambulance. And the tomb of the president, funeral service in Springfield, Illinois, from a sketch by our special artist Thomas Hogan. Oh wow, okay. There's my travel through ancient history. And there you go. Some details of things and detailed history as it was presented in those days anyway, in the Frank Leslie's Illustrated newspaper. This one is obviously probably important history. Anyway, this is signing off, David, from David Books and Comics, going through some details of history from the Civil War times to the death of the American president. Alright, so leave any comment if you like, if you want to know more. This is the only series of these that I have, and I was kind of lucky to find this, but what's interesting to me is all the little details about the American president's assassination. A sad, sad time in the history, in American history. Alright, so leave any comments if you like. We'll talk soon. Okay, bye.